I've been using Lightroom to edit my photos for 11 years now, and of course the program's come a long way since then. So today I wanted to share some of my favorite approaches and powerful techniques that if you're not using already, I feel it will really improve your workflow. To kick things off, the first tip is not a technical one, but more of a mental idea to get us started with the first stages of our edit and lead us into an intentional place with our edit, rather than just randomly moving sliders around. So when it comes to the basic adjustments in Lightroom, I like to split the sliders into two categories based on what they do and what they're best at. I pretend that the whites and blacks are the simple brightness controls, and then the highlights and shadows I like to think of as the detail controls. So for this raw file here, let's start with our whites and blacks, or as I like to think of them as the brightness sliders. And for the blacks, we're looking at the darkest portions of our images. So we've got some really dark portions down here under the tree, some under this doorway here as well, and of course in the leaves and stuff in this corner. So for the black slider, I'm simply going to decide how bright or dark I want those darkest portions to be. So I actually want them to be brighter in this case. So I'm going to bring the blacks up to about 50, I would say, and that looks good to me. We've brought some of those darkest portions back to being a bit brighter. And now the same with the whites. So the lightest portions of the image are obviously this sort of metal wall here, the floor, the sky, and we're going to decide how bright or dark I want those brightest portions. And for this, I'm actually also going to make those brighter, not by much. Let's do 25. And the absolute key here that I'm thinking about all the time with every slider that I move is, what do I want the image to feel like? What did it feel like at the time, and what do I want it to look like when it's done? This one at the time, early morning, it was bright, it was airy. I want the image to reflect that. So I'm making those darkest and brightest portions of the image overall brighter. So now we can move on to the quote unquote detail sliders, or the detail group of sliders, which is our shadows and highlights. So looking again at this image, in the shadows, what do I want? Do I want more detail or less detail? In this case, I want some more detail, especially down here where it's darkest and under this door. So I'm going to bring those shadows up as well. Let's do a fair bit. Let's go 34. That looks pretty good to me. We've brought out a lot of the detail in the trees and under that door again. Now we swap over to the highlights. How much detail do I want to either lose or retain in the highlights? In this case, I want to retain some because the sky's a little bit blown out. And we've got this back bumper of the car here as well. So let's bring the highlights down. I'm not going to go too crazy with it because I don't like that HDR look. -50 looks good to me. And if we turn now the basic adjustments on and off, you can see that big difference there. But again, the key is that I'm splitting these into two categories and giving them very particular jobs. Something I've been loving doing recently when I want to make fine-tune adjustments to a certain portion of the image is splitting the image into two, but with a blank preset to save me time. So I'm sure you all know that we can of course select our sky on its own and make adjustments to the sky, but I just want to quickly talk about these types of presets you can create to save you time and make your workflow a lot more efficient. So if I just open up my side panel here, and we've got our presets, I've been building out this one here called Speed Toolkit. There's not much in there at the minute because I'm currently working on it, but if we come down to number 5, we've got something called Split Image. And if I press that there, you'll see there that it's given us two masks, land only and sky only. They're named, and if we hover over, we've got sky only and land only. So if it was the case that for whatever reason I wanted to make, you know, the whites of the land only brighter, I can use that one there. If I wanted to bring the highlights down of the sky, then I could do that on the sky only. And of course, that's not necessarily a new technique, but I kind of wanted to outline in this video what you can use presets for and how far they can go, because when we think of presets, we often think of these full creative looks, color grades, styles that you put onto an entire image, rather than thinking of them as ways we can actually aid our own workflow. So, you know, if we look at the Speed Toolkit here, if you've got a particular sharpening style that you like, you can save that as a preset with absolutely no other adjustments. and that preset's going to really aid you when it comes to editing. I've got other stuff in there like soften the sky, sky mask only, subject boost, and it's just a really great way to use presets. So if you wanted to create something like this, let's just get rid of those ones we've made there. So if I select the sky and we get that, hover over it, we can see the sky, and now come over, press the sky mask, go on the three little dots, and we go duplicate and invert mask, and what that's going to do is give us a selection of everything that isn't the sky. We can then rename them if we want to call them something just by clicking on rename, and then when you create a preset, create preset. If you turn absolutely everything off apart from the two masks that you've just made and save that as a preset, you've then got this workflow preset, I like to call them, that does nothing else to your image other than speed up your workflow and allows you to apply these things really fast. So one of the big downsides to editing this way with, you know, a big sky mask or a big landscape mask or anything like that in Lightroom previously was that you would get these horrible artifacts, banding or glowing edges where those two masks meet each other, or where the mask is ending and parts of the landscape are being missed out of that mask. But very recently, within the last couple of weeks of me filming this video, Lightroom has solved this issue for us. So let's take a look at that. Let's look at this sky again on the tractor photograph. Let's say for the sake of this video, I wanted to make the sky in this image way brighter than it is. I don't, but let's just say for the video we do. So let's bring that exposure up and go quite far with it. If we turn that off and on, you can see it there really bleeding into the landscape, making it kind of noisy. And depending on what's going on up there in the background of your image, this can get really bad as well. You can end up, let's bring it all the way down to dark. You can see what it actually does to those portions. Now, there were ways around this before using brushes or intersecting masks, but it's even simpler now. Like I say, brand new with masks now, we have a feather and edge slider. So it's really simple. The edge is basically where the edge of the mask is going to end, and feather I like to think of as the fall off slider. So how nice and smooth the fall off is, or how abrupt it is. So if I bring the feather up quite considerably for this sky mask, you're going to see it sort of give us this gradient look, which is really nice if that's something you want, but perhaps you don't want that mask to bleed into your landscape whatsoever. If that's the case, let's bring feather down to 0 and we'll bring edge down to 0, and you're going to see that edge shift back up, making that sky adjustment completely come out of the landscape. Let's look at sort of one more intricate version of this feather and edge in action. So we've got these trees here right in the background. We've obviously got other trees, but I want to zoom in here so you can see exactly what it's doing. So let's just say, again, for the sake of argument, I wanted to darken this sky down like this. Now look how muddy and ugly and artifacty all of these trees go. It's not good at all. Even bringing it down by a lot less than that, if we turn that mask on and off, you're still going to see them get really muddy, and it's because that mask is bleeding into the trees. Let's look at the feather and edge sliders. Let's bring the edge up 25, and at first it's going to look far too obtrusive, if you will. It's going to look very harsh, but then we can go ahead and use the feather, and let's boost that up as well, and we can slowly feather that back out like that, and about there looks good to me. So let's turn back to before we used any of the edge adjustments. And there you have it. It's got the weird banding, the weird artifacts, and let's turn those adjustments back on again, and there you can see it looks a lot more like the original trees in the image. So those new feather and edge sliders in Lightroom are an incredible addition, but of course it still may be the case that masks that we add into our images have a high chance of bleeding into, overlapping, or cutting into stuff that we don't want them to cut into in our images. But if we get really savvy with the subtract controls inside the Lightroom masking panel, we can actually avoid this entirely. So let's say, again, for the sake of this video, that I wanted to add a huge gradient from top to bottom like this, that decreased clarity and added some dehaze. So let's go ahead and do that. You'll be able to see that it's actually bleeding or cutting or overlapping our main subject in the image. And this is really easily combated. All you have to do is click into your mask, press subtract, and think about what it is in your photograph that you need to have removed from the image, from the mask. So in this case, that is the subject. There is no real other subject. So if I click subtract and select subject, we press that, it is going to remove it from the mask. So now if we overlay there, you can see the mask has been placed almost behind the subject of our photograph. And that is so powerful for getting effects, atmosphere, or adjustments you want in the right places. But okay, so what about if we're in a position where we've got a mask on our image and it's cutting in or overlapping into something that is not the main subject of our image, or subtract subject is not really doing the job. So if we quickly look at this photograph here, I have a sky mask on that's a big dehaze for the sake of this video. And as you can see, it's cutting into the main subject of this photograph and this wind turbine quite aggressively right there. So we can subtract our subject and let's see what it removes from the image. That's done a really good job. If we hover over there, you can see there, it's removed the buildings and the wind turbine. But if we zoom into that wind turbine real quick, you'll see that it's actually still missing out sections of that wind turbine. So let me just zoom over here a little bit. What we can do in this instance again is think, okay, what is that in the image? That is an object. So if we come to our mask, press subtract, press select objects, and I'm just going to use the brush tool here, make it quite small and just paint up there like that, wait for it to load. Boom, it's brought our sort of propeller back in, and then we can do it again, subtract objects, draw here as well, and it should then bring that portion of the propeller back in nicely. So there isn't always a way around to make sure that these masks sit exactly where you want them to be. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about what I feel is currently the most underrated and possibly least spoken about panel or tool in the whole of Lightroom, and that is point color. I think it might be the case that most people have clicked on point color at some point or another and then decided, oh, it's just another way to edit colors, I'll stick with the HSL tab. That's definitely what I did. I ignored point color for the first few years it was inside Lightroom. Let's take a look at this image for the photograph. Let's say that I wanted to shift the blue water in this image closer towards green, because let's say I wanted it to match the trees a bit more, or on that day, for whatever reason, it felt more green to me at the time. So that's an adjustment I want to make. Maybe I'm working with color theory and I want to stick with as little color as possible. So you might come in and you might go on your HSL panel and we might go to hue and we might think, right, that water's blue. So let's grab the blue slider and move it towards the green or aqua sliders. And as you can see, that is demolished the image. It's bled all into these people's clothing down here. Right up here in the mountains, it's shifted all of that. So that doesn't work. Let's reset that. So we might try then the aqua slider. Let's move the aqua slider towards green, see what happens there. And now we've got all this kind of ugly, bad color separation. It's not really even doing what I want it to do. Now I will say, of course, there are other ways you can do this. You can mask your water. You can use a landscape mask and pick the water only. You can use the color range selector, and they were all the approaches I was using in the past before I stopped ignoring point color. And this is now the only approach I use because it is the fastest and most precise way. So let's move over into point color. Let's use our eyedropper tool here. Let's select a random portion of the water right here like that. And right down here, we have a visualize a range box. I want to turn that on so I can see what's being picked up. And as you can see, that has done an absolutely fantastic job already of just selecting that particular blue hue of the water. But if we zoom up here, we have got a bit of this mountain range in. So I'm going to refine this range down a bit. We might have to go right down actually here to 0 to get that out, but we've already made a huge difference with it not picking up all these people in the foreground, etc. So now we can turn visualize range back off again, and with the hue slider again, we can visualize on the hue slider that green is going to be left. So for the sake of this example, let's bring it all the way to the left, let's watch that water shift very pleasingly towards green without affecting any of the other hues. Let's do one more example with the tractor photograph again, just to be foolproof with this. Let's say for whatever reason I wanted to bring the brightness, luminance, and change the hue a little bit of the paintwork on the tractor. Let's go over to point color, select our tractor here, and again we are going to click visualize range. Now by visualizing the range, that's actually done a really good job, but again if we look up here, we've got some of these trees and stuff in, so let's refine that range right back. There we go, that's taken all of that out up there, look, and we now just have the tractor in play. So let's turn visualize range off now, and let's just go towards the green with the hue slider, and imagine we wanted to make the tractor more green, and then let's imagine we wanted to make it brighter. So let's brighten the luminance. There you go, look at that, beautifully controlled. And the reason this is so much more powerful over doing something like, say, select subject or just selecting the entire tractor, is because I don't want to change the luminance of, say, this rag here that's draped over. I don't want to change the luminance of the tires and the wheels or anything like that, because they're already really bright. So point color in this instance, I feel, is the most underrated and most powerful tool inside Lightroom. Okay, so the next few tips in this video are going to be all about using the curves tool, but making it easier and faster, I guess. And something I do every single time I apply a curves inside Lightroom is start with one of the presets down here. So no curve applied at the minute. And if we come down to this drop down, we have medium contrast, strong contrast, and curvy. So let's select medium contrast, and as you can see there, it's going to create a curve for us. Of course, not only is that a really nice, pleasing way to add contrast to your image in certain areas very quickly, if you don't want to mess around with it any more than that, or if you're somebody that likes to fly through your edits, put a curve on there, great. But what I actually like it the most for is the fact that it puts those points in there for you. So I'll just quickly press that preset depending on the image. If I only want some medium, then I'll grab medium. If I want loads, I'll grab strong. And those points are in there now for me to fine tune. I don't have to go dropping them in on every single edit that I do. And then another thing that I really like is holding the shift key down when I move the curve points around. Holding the shift key means it gets locked in up and down. I cannot move this point left or right now. I can only go up or down, and that allows me to make really sort of refined adjustments without it veering off somewhere that I don't want it to. Another quick tip for curves, which in this case comes in combination with using it with a sky mask, because for me, I never want my skies to bleed into white, despite the fact that I really like bright skies, because almost always my images are displayed on a white background. So let's change the background of this editing document here to white, and let's grab the sky. Let's imagine that the sky was actually like this bright in the edit or in the raw file. What I would do in this instance, because we have all of the adjustments in the panel down here, we can go to curves inside of our sky mask, and I like just slightly dropping that white point at the top down until I see those edges, top and bottom edges, have a very refined difference from the white background. And that means wherever this image is displayed, you can't get any brighter than pure white. So wherever it goes, there'll always be a separation there. I don't want it to ever bleed into white space, and that is my favorite way to do it. There's many ways to do it, but that's my favorite, especially because I like those kind of matte soft skies in my images as well. All right, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you found it helpful or learned something new. If you would like to support the videos here on my channel, then please go down to the pinned comment and check out one of those links. It really helps with the continuation of me making videos here on YouTube. But with that said, thank you for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one.